All right, beautiful humans, happy Monday. Welcome to another episode of Embodied Impact, where we explore the building of impactful companies and entrepreneurship and the ability to really magnify the love and the well-being in our intimate partnerships. So today we are here with Dr. Alfred Lohninger, and I've first come across Alfred when I was listening to a podcast while painting my now bedroom, and found the topic of like how can we listen to the heart more powerfully really exciting. And so Alfred is the CEO of Autonom Health. He's an author, teacher, and really focuses on the creation of health rather than just mitigating sickness. And so what we're going to explore basically today is like one of Alfred's devices, like from Autonom Health, is this chest belt that you can wear to get a sense of like what your heart is actually signaling you. And then there's a whole app that makes sense of the data and gives you insights into your personal well-being. So for me, it's supported much of my discovery of like why certain behavior patterns existed in my life. And what it really has drawn out for me is the balance in the nervous system. And that's really what we're going to explore today, more of like how can we live like healthy and happy lives guided by what our body is communicating with us at basically heartbeat to heartbeat. So Alfred, it's great to have you with us. And yeah, for any of you who have questions as we go along, share them in the question box or in the chat, and we'll get to that throughout the conversation.
Thank you very much, Toby. Nice to be with you guys. One question, just to share my screen in this system. I never used it. Share. Here it is, up here.
Exactly, when you click the top button.
I think I found it.
A little bit.
No, not share the event. I want to share my screen options. Also not. Where can I share my screen?
If you're simply on top of your video, then there should be the
next to the HD button.
So easy.
Amazing.
Yes.
Great. And now you just need to pull up the slides, and then we're good.
So here we are. You see this?
We do.
Exactly, yeah. Beautiful.
Okay. I hear my voice, but well, doesn't mind. So we're running the only health creating company, and what does it mean? Why health? Well, that's just not a matter of health. It's more a matter of economics, because it's not affordable anymore with actual health expenditures to spend. We have to focus on health, so keep people longer what they are made for, being healthy, performant, and happy. And so there's the question: what is health? Health is not the gift of any god or so. It's the consequence of our striving for strength and clarity and fulfillment. And those were not right. our constitution and of our lifestyle. And when we want to achieve health, then the question is, where are we going to? Everybody wants to go to healthy and state of high performance and happiness, and not to the right one. So you never really know which way you are going, and you think about if you're right, and the information you get just now in times of Corona is makes you fear and doesn't really work. So that makes trouble and makes you ill, even if you want to achieve health. And what about if you would get such a feedback about your resources and your strengths and not about all that harms you? That would be interesting, and that would bring you to the way on health. And I have a question for you. Which side do you prefer of this? The two ones at the left side here, or on the right side? Which do you prefer? Just like a picture hanging on the wall.
I'll
So
leave it
the
to Mr.
left
Moore.
ones is tissue of healthy organs and those of carcinomas. And here is order, and they are looking good. And here is chaos, and that's dissonance and disturbance. What do you prefer, the left ones or the right ones? A young, healthy, freshly fallen in love looks like better than an old, ill guy. And here again, the question, what do you prefer, the left ones or the right ones? And what you see here is the transformation of about 100,000 heartbeats during 24 hours into a spectrogram we call live fire, as it looks like a fire. And these are measurements of young, healthy people and those of chronically ill. So it's always pattern recognition, and that's always the same. And we have a wonderful measurement option in our bodies, and that's our heart. And the variability of the heart, it's known by the Chinese since the third century after Christ. When the heart beats as regular as the woodpecker pecking on the wood, or the rain dropping on the roof, then the patient will die very soon. And this has been recognized again in science in the 60s in our labor work with when we accompany women during labor, and if we want to know about the condition of the child, and the more variable the ECG of the unborn is, the more healthy it is. And that's not something ending with the first breath, it ends with the last one. And therefore, it's very common in traditional Western medicine also for grown-ups. So it looks like for the unborn, so it looks like for a young, healthy woman. And this is the variability of an old and not anymore healthy man. That's about COVID-19. That's not so interesting. And what we find is we find not only like in traditional medicine, those who are really ill, who are for diagnosed, we find also the sub-health area where you have no diagnosis and no results, but discomfort with people. And you find those who live too healthy, who eat just vegetables, and it doesn't fit for them, and you fit those high performers who have the really best options for anything to want to do in their life. I'd like to stop now with this and just jump with you into some real measurements, and we have here a choice of different kinds, such as good life or high performance, or let's see, stress or unhealthy lifestyle. Maybe how does it look like when one is just, well, living in divorce and exhausted. There's a guy, 41 years old, And you see here his live fire. The more it burns, the more colors, the more intense, the better, and the less the worse. And that's the heart rate going here up high because he's doing sports here. You see on the cross trainer, and you see here on this going here is tired and good performance, and here is in the job, and he is very much of vitality. And then he's gonna meet his future ex-wife in the coffee house, and there is minus 54% of energy, so to say. And then they go home because they're still living under one roof, and here it's even less. And then there is the night. They don't spend it in one bed, but in one house, and it's also all of exhaustion. And on the next day, when he's alone and he's in the job again, he is again plus 87% and a very good heart rate. So that's the principle. And what you see here also is here the vagus nerve, the high frequency, and all coming up here is vagus, and vagus is the health nerve, and that's the situation when we are in comfort and we are in renewing processes and healing processes, and we are when we are in well-being. We also are in well-being, and that's the topic of Massimo. When we have, like here, good life, when there is good sex, and before we go to questions and what's of interest for you, we can go here to this and jump into the vital analysis, because you do not only find those graphs, you also find results like the general state of health, the biological age, your performance potential, how you process with stress, and the burnout resistance, and a lot more information about your heart rate during the day and sleep and so on. And also about your performance, how was your sleep, and the mental performance in fatigue, tiredness, tension, and then 4% in flow. You get recommendations to perform better, not to avoid disease, but also about how to make the best out of their lives. And in the resume, they find the number of heartbeats within 24 hours. That was here almost in the average of the peer group of us. Here we have a 40-year-old woman, and you find your general power, your commitment, all in the green area, about your reserves, your economy that's not so good, but also in a good condition. And you find here the minimum and maximum of the measurement. And here you see the highest vagus activity is here when she had sex. And what's behind this finding, we can see this here when you go to the, so to say, med analysis, and you see here how the evening was. There was a lecture in a group. I think she did the lecture, and then there was a break with relaxing sound where she performed with some fatigue, but this is okay. and then she was a co-driver, and then in the restaurant with friends, alone for a moment, and then walking home with the boyfriend, then personal hygiene, and then there was very good sex. And what we find here is a decline in heart rate, because sex is not a physical training. It may be, but it's more relaxing. And you should activate your health nerve. You can activate your health nerve, your vagus nerve. And this is an attribute of the vagus. And you have a plus of 85%. And this also, and you find in those frequency bands, and that's parts of this total power, and this is your perfusion of your skeletal muscles, and that's going up for 67. This is the activation of your sympathetic tone, and this of the parasympathetic tone, the vagus, and you find an increase in all of them. And that's something like flow, when all the systems are powering, when the sympathetic nerve is on the run, and also the parasympathetic. It's not so that the one has to pass away, that the other one can appear. When you are in a good mood, then you are activated, you have a sympathetic activation, and you have economy and well-being accompanied by an activated vagus nerve. So this was a first short introduction from me now. And you can hear me? I would like to stop just now for a moment to have a break for your questions, so that it's not just a simple lecture from my side.
Absolutely.
So there's one question that actually came from somebody who called themselves Heaven on Earth, and the question is like, is the live fire the HRV? And maybe you can go a bit deeper into the technical transformation there.
Yeah, it's HRV. It's the transformation. It's when we go to you see there is a lot of slides. Maybe we see this. Or no, it's even better to hear the background is the variability between heartbeats. And let's go to
Alfred, Massimo, can you see the video still, the screen?
I can, yeah.
Okay,
I can see all three of you.
Good.
So if you are here in the evening, there is a lot of fatigue during watching TV, and there is not much of fire. And when we jump in here in those 5 minutes from 3 to 8 p.m.,
Alfred,
you see.
I don't think you're sharing your screen.
Oh. You can see it?
Yes.
Yeah, it's back. Thank you.
Yeah. Okay. So there is TV in the evening, and you see there is almost no fire, and we have minus 89% of total power, and we can look under the microscope, so to say, down here, and you see here every single heartbeat, the time from one beat to the next, and there is 73.71 beats per minute, so that's the pulse, and there is almost no difference, very little difference from beat to beat, and also over this period here. And on the other hand, there is a very good mindful exercise with breathing techniques, and here you see a plus of 161%. And it looks under the microscope like this. See those big differences because of breathing techniques. And you see the breathing, which is calculated out of the HRV also. And there is resonance, yeah, looking pretty the same. And this you also find during deep sleep. But I suggest let's jump back to our 41-year-old woman with good sex, because I wanted to show you how this is looking like. And like here, first during that deep sleep phase, here it looks like this, because there is a very high breathing frequency and there is resonance to the changing of the heart rate, because when inspiration the heart beats faster and in expiration it's slower again. That's called respiratory sinus arrhythmia. And you see a high frequency with little small amplitude, but with much variability. And here it's different during sex, but there is also much variability, because you find a double, yeah, that's 98% more than during the average of the day, and the other ones, and also the vagus is here almost 200% more, and under the microscope it looks like this in this whole phase. So there's a lot of variability. And how long does it take? It ends at 10 past midnight. And so that's the last, so to say, 10 minutes of her sex before sleep. And sex before sleep is something that brings you really good sleep, because it activates the vagus nerve, your health nerve, and then it looks like that. And to bring you a good comparison is, how does it look with a grippal infection? There's a young 30-year-old male, and he gets ill here. You see the fire is going away, the pulse is high, and there is very few variability like here. It's very flat, almost a flat line. And 8 days later, it was not COVID, it was just a grippal infection. The fire looks like this. Isn't this wonderful how this can be restored, so to say, after just 8 days? And here it looks like this. So very much a variability. The gray ones is when the system says there are mistakes. I can't believe this. Here is doing even sports, and you can see 8 days later, everything is in the green analysis, and the average heart rate during sleep is 45, and the whole 56. And 8 days before, it was not 45, but 88, almost a double of heart rate during the sleep. So there is a very huge area of variability, and HRV is also not like other diagnoses indispensable if it's a 20-year-old man or an 80-year-old woman. You always have to take care of who is it a man or woman, and especially also the age. So
yeah, Alfred, if we transition out of the slides, because Steve was asking a question if you've also run tests in parallel with brain EEG monitoring. So if you can see any sort of correlations between like how people breathe and then, for example, like gamma states in the brain or beta or alpha, beta, delta, he said. And yeah, if you have any sort of pointers in that
what
way.
you mean. Yeah. It's more complicated than you think, because the overlapping of those rhythms is very complicated, and it's also individual. And there are some ideas on this, but we are experts in HRV, and we should combine this with EEG to find out. But I cannot really say something really scientific based on this topic, but it will be interesting for the future, because there are it's not only the heart is the one thing, the breathing is the other thing, then it's the brain, and it's especially also the gut and the gut brain, and you have so to say brain in your heart and neurons, and you have also of course those in your belly, and you have the brain, and they all are connected, especially as there is everything connected with everything in us, not only in us but also out of us, combined with others and with natures. There are no frontiers actually.
Can we
actually
use
a summary of what's being discussed? Not really following data ways when it's good or bad. Yeah, gender affects it very much. I can just let me find. I think I've got one here. Yeah. Just to share again.
Alfred, maybe the best thing is, since Andy is asking for like more like a high level overview, if we unpack like HRV a bit more generic, and speaking about, maybe without the slides, what HRV really is, how it's measured, and then also like in what ways it can inform our behavior, and maybe getting into the role of the vagus nerve and how it connects our brain with our heart, and even how we speak.
Here you have there in German, that I think that doesn't mind. That's a 20-year-old woman, a 20-year-old man. There is not so much difference. Men have a bit more HRV than women, but women have a higher vagus tone. than men, therefore, and also bear children. If we had to do, we couldn't live anymore. So women are much more belastbar than we are. And it runs like this: when you're 70, then the fire is burned down. But that's normal. That's the way of living. And you can take care of your fire, and you can stay healthy, and you can be like 40 when you're 70 and when you had a good life. And for example, here you see this is excellent sleep. You see here phases of deep sleep and light sleep, REM sleep, deep sleep, REM sleep, and that sleep is going like this over the time. And here is just very, very weak of this, and this is the vagus activation. And there is no sleep architecture. You don't see and that's the world champion figure skating. You see high up flaming, and you see it very intense, and you see it very colorful, because the more colors, the more healthiness and variability. And when you're in burnout, there is almost nothing here anymore. So really burned down.
That's Alfred, can I interrupt you in that sense and get back to a bit of maybe kind of a more like high level explanation of heart rate variability, because I think for Andy and for people who are not so familiar with the topic, it would be useful to have a more kind of like conceptual picture of like how HRV supports and like how it's measured, where it's coming from, and then how it can support the well-being. And maybe we don't need the slides, but we can have just a bit of an explanation from you in that sense.
Let's have some. I know that's the. Yes, I think this will help. Takes just a second. The heart does not beat like a metronome. It's always a difference from in the time from one beat to another, and that's a sign of adaptability. And if you have lost this, then you cannot adapt to any impulse from out or inside. So I think now it's gonna come. So here we are. What is HRV? It's the time interval from one heartbeat, from one peak in the ECG to the next one. And that's the natural function. If it is not, that's not natural, that's not health. And this is when the heart beats absolutely regular, yeah, like a metronome. if you would bring this into a line, it would be an absolutely flat line. In normal life, it goes like this. Very different. And if you want to bring it in a line, it looks like this. And if you're not healthy anymore, it looks like this. This is an ECG, and there's another form of drawing this variability. That's if you have 70 beats per minute without any variability. And here you see, depending on how long it takes, here it is shorter, then it's longer again, then it's shorter again, and this you see here. There it's faster and slower and faster. And when it takes like here, so 10 seconds till it's get faster again, then it would like this. The period is never the same. And this is the
Alfred, just a question: is the greater the variability in this basically highlighting that the body is more ready to, I guess, engage with higher level activities and I guess perform at higher performance?
It's always the possibility, and therefore, when you do a lot of training in sports, then you have as a reaction slow pulse. And when you have slow pulse, you have much more chance to change this in an area. If you have 40 beats per minute, you can go up to 200. You have a lot more chance for variability than if you are in burnout and you're running with 100 beats per minute through all the time. You also will not go up to 200 when you're in burnout. But if you're a young, healthy sportsman, you will sleep with 40 and you will do your high performance with 200. You can imagine this like when you are doing whatever you do, the more place you have for adaptability, the better you are. And if it's very narrow, then you have no chance either to go into performance and also not into regeneration. And you have to deal with both. You have to sleep very good and you have to be active like a child. Okay.
Absolutely. I think one of the things that I was very curious about using your technology was, I guess, finding the correlation between me not falling back into burnout again and looking at it as where do I lie on not only sexual performance, but how does my mindfulness sort of influence my day-to-day living, and practices that I include in my life like yoga and things like that. And that was something that I found very, very helpful in being able to kind of move away from just the sports watch, I guess smartwatch technology, to something that was really more in depth, where I could look at that life fire and go, wow, okay, there's really something happening here, and being more mindful stage by stage in how all of these little nuances are actually influencing my life.
Yes, it gives you a bio, psycho, social, emotional feedback over not just a photo, but a film over 24 hours, showing you the truth about how you're living. And I can show you something about the spectrogram. The intensity is the one. So the highest intensity is the blue, then it goes to the red, yellow, white, and gray is the ashes, that's 0. Here in a very good example, but it's also the same in one that is not so good. Here is during sleep, blue, red, yellow, and white. The next is the density. The more dense, the better, like here. And also here are also dense areas, and those are the good ones. And the third aspect is the elevation. The higher, the better. Going up to the vagus, also here.
What
And it's
recommendations?
depending on yeah.
Sorry, Alfred. What recommendations do you have for people listening? How they could use your tech so that they could start advancing their lives?
They get feedback from the app, and we have coaches also supporting the users. And you get feedback, for example, now if in the performance here you see, then when you go mouse over, not here on the slide, but you see you are maybe on the borderline or regenerating area, and you have here very good regeneration. And you see when you're a lot of exhausted, and then you get recommendations for power nap breaks, breathing exercises, what helps you. And then you find out for yourself how you live in your rhythm. So what is my time to go to bed? How long shall I sleep? What about the meals I take to me? Is this good for me? Do we have meat or not? And you get your personal feedback, and that never lies, and you can find out, and you can trial and error. You can play with your life, and you can watch yourself drinking a bottle of wine or not. Does it make a difference? And so on. And you get the honest feedback, and then you have the chance to change something, and you get the reward, or also not.
Actually, on the note of like watching oneself in life, Steve is asking a number of like really interesting questions. One of them is around are there like any significant differences in HRV patterns, particularly like ventral vagus involvement in male orgasm versus female orgasm, and then in the female like clitoral versus vaginal orgasm? Do you know of any studies in that space?
No, there is not that difference. It looks like, but like this, it's always flaming high, and that's the same with both. And it's too individually the kind of orgasm, because the one can reach it just by clitoral stimulation, and there is so much running about this topic, and you've never learned all, even for you, because you are not the same every day. There is so much running in your brain. It's so much depending. It's the meaning for women, how good can they let them fall, and how high is the trustfulness to the partner, and so on. That's that you can't give there an one size fits all recommendation from my point of view.
Which is really something interesting, because I wonder if this is one of the studies that you've done as well, sort of aligning two people together as an example in a couple. Can the couple use this technology to really align themselves and sync themselves better, so that it's reinforcing the relationship too?
We have always again measurements when there are phone calls from couples living not together, and there is very interesting how there is often the highest performance of the whole measurement when they are talking together. and also, of course, when they are together. Like you thought before, the ones who were in divorce or not, you see also the opposite when everything is fine, and that's always the one thing, because resonance rules the world, and if you are in resonance with the one you love, then you see this also in resonance of heartbeat and breathing patterns.
So there's some interesting things coming up. One was Steve was also asking if there's any HRV studies around people prior and post taking psilocybin or like other like psychoactive substances. And then we have Bilal asking around if there's any patterns that you see in people with addiction.
Yeah, you have here.
Also, thanks folks for asking these questions. This is really fascinating.
Here you see cannabis. There is mental activity with tiredness and going home. And then there is the intake, and that's no more intake. And you see that is a big difference, because there is minus 76 with almost 100 beats per minute, and here you have 95 minus 19, and here before you have plus 72 and minus 30. So that's 70 beats per minute, and after intake there is 100, and that's just cannabis. And we see what was really dramatic is cocaine. I have not the measurement right now, but that's very high pulse and very pure vitality. With cannabis, you can see sometimes good patterns during intake, but it's more coming from deep breathing when you inhale. But for the physiology, it's not really healthy. It's a drug like alcohol or others, maybe not that bad, and you have to be aware that there is something happen. You have collateral maybe advantages, but you also have collateral disadvantages, damages, and always then what you make out of it. Yeah.
So do you see specific patterns in people that have addictions to these substances?
Yeah. I've got one here. Well, not this, but this is some maniac that's not addicted by someone, but maniac, and this is a 43-year-old man, and you see there is almost no fire. There is 115 beats per minute, and the state of health.
This is someone experiencing mania.
Yeah. So that's a terrible illness, the disease, and that's all in the red. And we saw before short the chronic alcohol abuse, and that really makes you also a lot ill. So it's not to be recommended.
Then we have like one final question from Steve. Actually, that's just another one. Do you have studies on PTSD, like what PTSD does to the nervous system, and then also like potentially how it looks after they have finished their PTSD or have healed from it, basically.
When you heal, there is a lot possible. Again, you can restore totally. That's not as I've learned in traditional Chinese medicine. I also did that you can't restore what you have lost after burnout, for example. You can restore. You can get back everything. Yes, we are so addicted to health when we get a newborn early in age with vacuum extraction or so. It's unbelievable what people can stand, and it never ends. And if you stop drug intake or so, or your stress, you can recover again totally. But PTSD is dramatically also, and because the vagus is breaking away, there is sympathetic overtone, and uh, it always runs like this. It always starts with the withdrawal of vagus, because the vagus is activated by breathing. And whenever you have German angst, you have fear, you have discomfort, you have pain, you can't breathe like a child anymore. If you have stress, and when you can't breathe, you have a poor vagus, you have less economy and less regeneration. That means you can do your performance, but with a higher energy take. And the next one is then burning down, and the next level, the low frequency level, is breaking away, and that goes on your mitochondrial area. So you need even more energy, and you get metabolic stress. Therefore, detoxification is helpful to get up again. And the next step is then the very low frequency. That's the perfusion patterns of your muscles. And in the muscles, there is glycogen and protein stored. And this is burned also in your mitochondria when there is no energy else anymore. And that's the sarcopenia, the withdrawal of skeletal muscle. And that also happens when you have progressing carcinoma disease. And then that's the end. So it really starts from the breaking away of the vagus, and the restorage of the vagus. When you have well-being more, if you have caring around you, is you can breathe again, and that's always the initiation of healing processes. That's absolutely necessary. Therefore, is trustfulness the currency of the future? Yeah, the whole world is operated now with fear, and what we need so much is trustfulness into ourselves, into others, and could be also into society. But that's not easy in times like this.
It's a very valuable point, that.
Wow. It's really beautiful how we've basically come around from the technological assessment of like what our heart is telling us to, like, what is the first step towards healing is to focus on how we breathe.
If you listen to your heart, you do not need the measurement. If you listen to your heart and to your belly, then you're going right. And I always say, think 3 times, not just to sleep over it, but also to think with your brain, with your gut, and with your heart. And then you have 3 patterns, and these both can't lie. Your brain can, but if you let it overrule by the other ones, you will not fail.
Amazing. Alfred, it was beautiful. For anyone who wants to get in touch with you, we've put all your links into the description. Is there anything else you want to invite people to at the moment?
Just stay with you. If you're really interested in HRV, we have an education program in English. It's in videos. You can consume it. Toby did it. I think it's not rocket science. You can understand this. And we have also a voucher to get it cheaper when you order it with embodied. What was the? You write it. You know.
Yeah, I think the
how
code is
it
just
writes.
embodied, just the name of the company.
Yes, embodied. Genau, so it is. Yeah. And yeah, have a good time and enjoy summer and enjoy the sex. It's good for your health and for Vegas. Absolutely.
And using a product like
you're
this
never
can
too
always make
old.
it better sex.
Amazing.
Yeah, we say like we did not before to the really old guys living in the not in their home anymore. Find some other one, and if you're not, help yourself, but have sex.
Indeed. We'll take this away. Alfred, thank you so much for sharing your
very
time, sharing your wisdom. For everyone who was part of this, thanks for being here. Also, thanks for asking questions and being so curious. See you next week looking at entrepreneurship again. Lots of love. Have a good week.
Have a beautiful day.
All the best to you. Enjoy your life.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
See ya. Bye-bye.
Bye.